Redoine Faïd. That name gives French police the chills. He's a legend, a ghost, a master of escape. His life is like a crime movie, full of big robberies, careful plans, and daring escapes. He lived life on the edge, loving movies and wanting something amazing. Fayed was born just outside Paris, far from the fancy life and riches he would later want. He had a normal childhood, but inside, he was ambitious. He wanted a life that wasn't boring, a life like in the movies. A video store opened up his world. It was a place filled with endless possibilities, where each VHS tape held a new adventure, a new story waiting to be discovered. The smell of plastic cases and the hum of fluorescent lights became a sanctuary for him. Every visit was like a treasure hunt, and he was the eager explorer. Surrounded by tons of movies, Fayed found what he wanted to do. He wasn't just picking out films, he was picking out his future. Each movie he watched was a lesson, a glimpse into a world he wanted to be a part of. The aisles of the video store were like the corridors of his dreams, guiding him towards his destiny. He watched movies all the time, especially ones about robberies and gangs. These weren't just films to him, they were blueprints, the characters, the plots, the heists. They all fascinated him. He was drawn to the thrill, the danger, the meticulous planning. It was as if these movies were speaking directly to him, showing him a path he never knew existed. He studied them, figured them out, memorized them. Every scene was a puzzle piece, and he was determined to see the whole picture. He took notes, rewound scenes, and watched them over and over until he knew them by heart. It wasn't just entertainment, it was education. He was learning the art of the heist, one movie at a time. Movies and real life started to mix together. The lines between fiction and reality blurred. He began to see the world through the lens of the films he loved. Every street corner, every building, every person became a part of his cinematic universe. It was as if he was living in a movie, with each day bringing a new scene to play out. He wasn't just watching, he was living these movies in his head. His imagination ran wild, placing him in the middle of the action. He could see himself as the mastermind, the planner, the one who always stayed one step ahead. These daydreams were more than fantasies, they were rehearsals for the life he wanted to lead. His favorites were the famous ones: Scarface, Heat, Goodfellas. These films were his textbooks, their characters his teachers. He admired their audacity, their cunning, their ability to bend the world to their will. They were more than just movies. They were blueprints for a life of excitement and danger. The careful planning, the exciting action, the thrill of getting away. These stories made his imagination go wild. He was captivated by the precision, the adrenaline, the high stakes. Each heist was a symphony of chaos and control, and he wanted to be the conductor. The more he watched, the more he craved that rush. He saw himself in the bad guys, the ones who made their own rules. They were rebels, outlaws, masters of their own fate. He identified with their defiance, their refusal to play by the rules. In them, he saw a reflection of his own desires, his own ambitions. They weren't just characters, they were kindred spirits. His ambition started to grow. What began as a fascination turned into a burning desire. He wanted more than just to watch, he wanted to live it. The video store had opened a door, and now he was ready to step through it. His dreams were no longer confined to the screen, they were becoming his reality. At 18, Fayed started his life of crime. He wasn't alone. His older brother joined him, and they started a gang. This wasn't just a bunch of street thugs. Fayed ran his gang like a smooth machine, just like in the movies. Practice was tough. The gang practiced their parts, timed everything, and thought about everything that could go wrong. Their first target was a mail truck. The robbery was quick, clean, and successful. The movies were his guide, and Redoine Faïd was building his own future. Everyone started talking about Fayed's careful plans and boldness. He wasn't just a thief, he was an artist. His robberies were like planned performances, every move thought out, every little thing mattered. He robbed banks, jewelry stores, armored trucks, always wanting more, always pushing harder. Fayed knew surprise was important. He would wear disguises, change how he looked, and trick people. His gang, loyal and quiet, followed him without question. He was their leader, their teacher, their hero. Fayed's success felt great. He lived a rich life. Expensive cars, fancy clothes, big bets at casinos. He loved the rich life. He lived in a secret world with friends who lived by the same rules: loyalty, silence, and loving the exciting life. But his success had a downside. The police were watching, interested in how bold he was and how he always got away. Fayed was a ghost, a whisper, disappearing before the police could catch him. He was a master of tricks, a phantom who loved the shadows. Robbing the BNP Paribas Bank in 1995 made Fayed famous. It was a bold robbery, done in the middle of the day, getting him and his gang millions. Newspapers called him the Brain, amazed by how smart and daring he was. But the police were getting closer, wanting to arrest him. In 1997, his luck ran out. He was arrested and sent to prison for 20 years. In prison, he kept studying, learning, making his mind sharper. He read about philosophy, psychology, law, learning everything he could, but inside he still wanted to be free. After 10 years in prison, Fayed said he was a changed man. He had spent countless hours reflecting on his past actions, the choices that led him to a life behind bars. The isolation and the monotony of prison life gave him ample time to think about his future. He claimed to have found a new purpose, a new direction. He wrote a book about his life saying he was sorry for his crimes. The book was a detailed account of his journey from a small-time delinquent to one of France's most notorious criminals. It was a story of regret, redemption, and the hope for a second chance. The book garnered attention, not just for its content, but for the sincerity with which Fayed expressed his remorse. He did interviews saying he was a new person. Fayed appeared on numerous television shows and radio programs, sharing his story with the world. He spoke passionately about his desire to leave his criminal past behind and to become a positive influence in society. His words resonated with many, and he began to gain a following of supporters who believed in his transformation. In 2009, he got out of prison early. His early release was a testament to his good behavior and the progress he had made during his time behind bars. As he walked out of the prison gates, he was greeted by his family and friends, who had stood by him throughout his incarceration. It was a moment of triumph, a new beginning. For a little while it seemed like Redoine Faïd had really left his old life behind. He found a job, reconnected with his loved ones, and started to build a new life. He was determined to prove that he had changed, that he was no longer the man who had once terrorized the streets of Paris. His days were filled with hope and promise, but the exciting life of crime was too hard to resist. Despite his best efforts, the allure of his former life began to creep back in. The memories of his past exploits, the thrill of the heists, and the admiration he had once received were hard to forget. He found himself drawn to the very things he had vowed to leave behind. The movies he loved, the characters he admired, they were more than just movies, they were part of him. Fayed had always been fascinated by the world of cinema, particularly crime films. The characters he saw on screen were not just fictional to him, they were role models, figures to emulate. The lines between reality and fiction began to blur, and he found himself slipping back into old habits. He couldn't stay away from his old life. The temptation was too great, and the pull of his past too strong. Despite his promises and the new life he had tried to build, Fayed found himself once again entangled in the world of crime. It was a fleeting reprieve, a brief moment of hope that ultimately gave way to the inevitable return to his old ways. In 2010, Redoine Faïd went back to crime. This time he was more violent than before. He wasn't happy just tricking the police, he wanted to use force to scare people. The risks were bigger, but so was the money. He started a new gang, meaner and more desperate than his old one. They did a bunch of armed robberies, hitting armored trucks and jewelry stores. Fayed was obsessed, wanting to be the biggest crime boss again. In 2013, Fayed broke out of prison. It was a meticulously planned escape that left authorities stunned and the public in awe. Fayed, known for his audacious heists, had always been a step ahead of the law, but this time he took it to another level. It was like something from a movie. The precision, the timing, everything was executed flawlessly. Fayed had studied the prison's layout for months, identifying every possible weak point. He used bombs to get out, holding guards hostage with a hidden weapon. The explosions were deafening, creating chaos and confusion, which Fayed used to his advantage. The guards, caught off guard, had no choice but to comply with his demands. His escape was all over the news, making him even more famous. Media outlets around the world covered the story, painting Fayed as a modern-day Robin Hood, a master criminal who could outsmart anyone. But he wasn't free for long. The authorities launched a massive manhunt, deploying every resource at their disposal to track him down. They knew that capturing Fayed was a matter of restoring their own credibility. 6 weeks later, they caught him again. Fayed was back behind bars, but his spirit remained unbroken. He began plotting his next move almost immediately, knowing that his time in prison was only temporary. But Fayed escaped again in 2018, even crazier than before. This time his plan was even more daring, involving a level of coordination and risk that few would dare to attempt. His friends hijacked a helicopter, landing it in the prison yard. The audacity of the plan was breathtaking. The helicopter swooped in, creating a spectacle that left everyone in shock. While people were shooting, he jumped in and flew away. The gunfire added to the chaos, but Fayed remained calm and focused, knowing that this was his chance to taste freedom once more. His escape showed how smart he was, how determined he was, and how he could find weaknesses. Fayed's ability to think several steps ahead, to anticipate every possible scenario, made him a formidable opponent. His story is a testament to the lengths one can go to in the pursuit of freedom and the unbreakable human spirit that refuses to be confined. He wasn't free for long. After 3 months, police caught Fayed. He was sent to prison for 25 years, his dreams of freedom gone. But even in a high-security prison, Redoine Faïd hasn't given up. He wants to make a movie about his life, to tell his story. He's lived 1,000 lives, a great storyteller who always mixed up movies and real life. Redoine Faïd might be in prison, but his story, like the movies he loved, will never be forgotten.